My name is Marissa Currens. I am an art teacher for kindergarten through 8th grade in the School District of Philadelphia.
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Art Education.
And I will be presenting to you my study on whether art integration can help improve academic achievement for inner city students. For many years, the United States has struggled with how to raise academic achievement scores for our kindergarten through 12th grade students. As a result, President Bush passed the No Child Left Behind Act in 2002. This act caused schools to increase the amount of time students spent in math, English, and science, and decrease or even completely rid schools of visual arts, music, gym, and subjects they considered extracurricular. As a result, scores actually started dropping. And as scores dropped, more students were dropping out of schools, not able to be a part of supporting our current economy. Some of the students who did continue in schools were not prepared for college, as well as not able to pass interviews. They were not prepared for the jobs and the demands that those jobs have. With the Every Student Succeeds Act making art a part of the standardized curriculum, schools, administration, and teachers need to start asking the question, how do we do this? How do we implement the arts? One such way is through arts integration. This is when schools or students learn both through and with the arts. It's a collaborative process, so all the teachers in the building need to be on board, and they need to be both given and willing to have the time to work together. Arts integration is cross-curricular, which means that art teachers should be including other subject matters into their art projects, and other subject matter teachers should be including art into their subjects. Art integration has shown to be supportive of test subject matters. The students tend to learn better when they are learning through the arts or when connections are made in multiple subjects. And students are encouraged to problem solve. Rather than just waiting for the answers to be fed to them, students seek out the information and find the answers for themselves. I chose to do this research because I wanted to prove to my administration as well as my coworkers that art is more than just pretty pictures. Art can actually improve achievement scores and cause the students to want to seek out knowledge and actually be motivated to learn. As an art teacher in a school that thinks that art is just pretty pictures, I wanted to find the research as well as do my own to prove that this is not the case. Currently, in 2018 or 2019, the arts are only recently coming back. Schools who have not had an art program in 10 to 15 years are now getting art teachers for the first time, and they don't know how to implement their art programs. They don't know what curriculum their art teachers should be teaching. But the Every Student Succeeds Act is proof that the arts, in fact, are needed, and that schools need to look into the best ways of implementing art into their schools. Most importantly, the fact that studies show that students are losing the ability to problem solve due to a lack in the creative arts proves that schools need to look and see how they can implement the arts in order to encourage students to problem solve for themselves and to seek their own answers and to be motivated to learn. I decided to do this study because there is not enough research as of yet to force schools to acknowledge the need for the arts and the benefits of the arts. Students are still dropping out of schools due to depression and low self-worth, and students are still not prepared for college or for the job market. This study is based off of Dewey's transformative experience theory. Dewey believed that schools should enrich students' experiences, that it should add meaning and value to their future experiences, and that they should be able to make real-world connections. With the way that school currently is, completely based off standardized tests, many students can't make these connections, these real-world connections. However, when arts are integrated, many of these real-world connections just come naturally. Dewey's theory informs this study, as in that he believed as well that art makes the concepts come alive. Art helps connect to real-world experiences, And as a result, arts integration completes his idea that schools will enrich children's life experience. Research prior to conducting this study suggested the following interventions. Bamford's study of 2009 suggested that art should be integrated into general subjects such as math, reading, and writing, as well as having an art class. Willis's study of 2012 showed that students who participated in STEAM programs as opposed to STEM programs were better prepared for college and better prepared for the job market, for interviews. They had more innovative thoughts and they were better able to be the future engineers that our economy needs. Bowen, Green, and Kizda's study of 2014 showed that not only teaching students art in the classroom or integrating that into their other subjects, but also taking them to their community or to museums to see the art of our history and the art of our culture increased academic achievement. Finally, Eisenberg's study of 2009 showed that academic achievement was improved when teachers were given the opportunity to collaborate, that art integration worked, but the amount that it worked was amplified when teachers were given time to collaborate, to work together, to create lessons that connected. The purpose of this quantitative study was to determine the effects of integrating art on students' academic achievement, specifically in the area of writing. The hypothesis of this study was that students who are given the opportunity to do art connected to their writing would increase in their writing scores more than students who did not have this art intervention. The dependent variable was the student's writing ability, so this is what we were looking to see whether it changed or not. The independent variable was the method of instruction. The experimental group received a connected instruction between the art teacher and the English teacher, whereas the control group received both art and English training, but there was no connection made. The impact of this study on the students was that the integration of art into their writing curriculum enabled them to think for themselves and to correct their own mistakes, to look at their writing and look at their art and figure out what needed to be changed or what needed to be improved upon. Whereas the students who did not have this connection were not able to see their own mistakes as readily. My work as a teacher, I am hoping, will be impacted when other teachers or administrations see the results of this study and see the increase in academic achievement of the group that had the art connection. The participants of this study all attended Martha Washington Elementary School, a Philadelphia public school. 100% of them qualified for free and reduced lunch. 98% of them were African American, 1% Caucasian, and 1% Hispanic. There were 48 students total in 4 classes in 7th and 8th grade. These students ranged in age from 11 to 13 years old. 56% of the students were male and 44% were female. 56% of them had IEP plans. Materials used to conduct this study were Chromebooks, the Google Classroom platform, watercolor paper, watercolor brushes, paint pens, and the Collection Student Edition and Close Reader e-textbook. This was an 8-week-long experiment. There was a baseline assessment with a prompt based on The Screen Painting by Edward Munch. The students had to write a story based on what they saw in this painting. That story was then graded based on the Pennsylvania writing rubric. The students met with their English teacher for 1 hour, 5 times a week, where she taught them how to write an introduction, a rising action, a climax, a falling action, and a resolution. In art class, the students met for 1 hour, 1 time a week. The students learned different watercolor techniques, and then with those watercolor techniques, they learned how to create a setting for their story. They learned how to paint different characters, and they learned how to paint their characters in motion. An independent sample t-test was used along with the Pennsylvania writing rubric scores from the students' pre-test in order to determine if there was a significant statistical difference to the two groups, the control and the experimental group, prior to beginning the study. It turned out that there was no significant statistical difference. Once again, a sample t-test was used along with the Pennsylvania Writing Rubric to assess both groups' post-test writing score. The results of this study showed that we were able to reject the null hypothesis. There is no difference between the control group and the experimental group in favor of the fact that the experimental group showed statistically more improvement than the control group. This was shown with an increased score of 2.97% compared to the 0.35% of the control group. This can be seen more specifically when looking at the raw data in that the two groups had a similar pretest score, p-score of 0.079. When we look at the post-test scores, we see that the control group stayed the same while the experimental group improved significantly. This gave us a new p-score of 0.008, demonstrating a statistically significant difference between the two groups. Data from this study supports current research that art integration can improve academic achievement. It also furthers the study in that students from an urban community, middle school students, were now tested. This study showed that students were able to do better when they were more invested in their work, that students' writing was amplified when art was added to it and creative thinking, and that collaboration amongst teachers increases students' scores, specifically with this study in regards to writing. As Dewey stated in his transformative experience theory, our goal as educators is to enrich students' learning experience. This study proved that one such way of doing this is by integrating the arts. When the arts were integrated into the students' writing was enriched in the sense that they got to actually see their writing come to life. The implications for this study are that when art is integrated into general education subject matters, students' academic performance increases, connections are made, and students are more motivated to take their learning into their own hands. Their ability to make real-world connections is increased, and they learn new concepts in brand new ways that help them to better apply them to standardized tests. For educators, this method of art integration follows both the English and art standards. It enables educators to work together and to teach each other new strategies for better learning, and it also enables educators to communicate better and to create a more organized structure for their students. Limitations for this study include time restrictions. While the English teacher saw the students 5 days a week for an hour each, the art teacher only saw them 1 day a week for an hour. And that was if there were no assemblies, no field trips, or no school cancellations. The participants were also limited in that the study was only conducted with 7th and 8th graders in an inner city school, and throughout this study, several students left and we had new students come in, but that's the nature of our school district. Some of the resources were limited in that partway through the study, I lost access to the computers that I was using. The art supplies were limited to what I could afford, and the curriculum demands changed partway through this study. Another limitation was difficulty in developing a cohesive model for co-teaching. The English teacher and I collaborated, but this had to be during our own time. We were not allotted any time by administration. And lastly, external influences. There was no parent support. While the administration allowed this study to go on, they did not support it or give any extra resources. So while past research suggests that an entire community is needed for art integration, this study, I did not have access to that. In the future, I recommend a longer length for the study, an entire year, where we can see how the seasons or how the different times of the year affect the students. A larger group of participants, it would be nice to see an entire school participate in this, and teacher trainings. Teachers need to be allotted time to collaborate as well as giving training in how to integrate art. This is the initial writing prompt that was given to the students. They were instructed to write a story based on this picture. This was their final assessment. They painted a story that connected with the story they wrote.